So today's video is a pretty spontaneous one, as I woke up and noticed that Adobe released their new update for Photoshop, Lightroom, Lightroom Mobile and Camera Raw. I'm using almost exclusively Lightroom Classic when working on my computer, and on the go I'm using sometimes Lightroom Mobile on my phone, but Photoshop, you know, I just rarely use it when I cannot do something particular in Lightroom, but other than that I almost never touch Photoshop. But spoiler alert, it seems that in this new version there will be a new feature that will even reduce my usage of Photoshop, I think. As for the update, given that the one we had last year was pretty big, with new AI features on the brush and the masking tools, I was really wondering how they can improve on that, but it looks that they managed to do it and it looks promising. So let's dive in, and we'll edit a picture I took recently in one of my favorite places here in Hiroshima, and we'll have a first look at what's new on this 2022 version. Okay, so here's the picture, and we'll start with the healing tool because it's one of the most exciting to me. It is now using the same technology and same algorithm as Photoshop. You see now it's already the basic version. I'm pretty sure that they are proud of what they did. So the previous correct and stem tools that were not really the best are now on the side. And yeah, let's just try to remove this big tree that comes in the middle of the frame, which I don't really like. And let's have a look at how it performs. First thing I like is that we can actually see what we are doing now. It's not turning white, which is a good thing. And boom, yeah, it's good. Here there is just a little bit of the roof coming in, but I'm sure if we try to correct that a little bit more, we can almost get rid of this in a few more seconds. That looks good to me. And now I will try to remove other things, just like this thing and this other pole right here. A few seconds later, here is what I managed to do, and it looks pretty damn good, like almost on par with what you can do on Photoshop. Actually, it's only when I really wanted to erase something and it was too difficult to do it in Lightroom that I would jump into Photoshop, because even though the connection and the interaction between the two software is really good, I don't like that once you go into Photoshop and you do your thing and you save the photo to bring it back to Lightroom, then if on Lightroom you wanted to dial a little bit more the contrast and the colors, you couldn't really do it because the file was not a RAW, not a DNG anymore. So now you can do pretty much everything in Lightroom, and if you stop editing and come back to this picture a few days later and you want to dial a little bit more the contrast and colors, you can actually do so. So pretty stoked on that. I will do a really quick edit on the picture, but listen carefully as I will give a few tips and there if I can. So I'll start with the basic adjustment and bring back a little bit the exposure. I like to reduce my contrast because I do my contrast in the tone curves. I prefer the contrast roll-off from the tone curves. So I use the basic adjustment to kind of flatten my picture, and then I'll bring back the contrast in the tone curves. Highlight looks good. Bring back a little bit the shadows. Otherwise, I think it's pretty decent like this. I reduce my clarity because I don't like the over sharpness from a modern camera sensor, and we are pretty good to go like this. It looks flat, I know, but we'll bring back some life to the picture in the tone curve now. So let's start with a pretty basic S-curve, and because it's a quite dark picture, I will move my mid-tone up quite a bit, also my highlights, but still I want to crush a little bit my dark to have a really nice contrast. Then I also like to do a little bit of S-curve on the RGB channels because it adds some contrast, especially like in the colors get more deep. So I usually do a little tone curve in the red, for example, and then I'll simply copy paste on the other channel because I don't want to do any color grading here. I will do color grading if I want in the color grading tab. With the tone curve it looks much better. In the calibration, let's move the blue to the left because I like how it affects the yellow and orange part specifically. But then you see my greens get a bit more yellowish, which I don't like, but I can correct that in the HSL tab. So let's bring those green back to green. The yellow a little bit greener too. And to have deep green, I like to reduce the saturation and the luminance, so we'll do that right away. It looks good if I reduce quite a bit. but keep the yellow quite up. The luminance too, I will reduce the luminance from the green. What about the yellow? Just very slightly. I think we are good like this. One thing though is that the roof of this little hut and the stones here are really blue, which I don't like. I want to keep as little colors as possible, and we already have the orange here and the green from the leaf, so I will dial down this blue quite a lot, not completely because it looks a bit odd, but maybe like -50. I think it looks very good like this. As for the color grading, just a little bit of blue in the shadows, a little bit of orange in the highlights, not that much of course, but just to have a better view on what you're doing, I tend to go all the way and then dial it down. So we're good like this. It is pretty basic, it's not a crazy edit, but just for the sake of this video, so bear with me. Now I want to try another exciting new features of this update, which is the select object. I'll try to select this hut, and it's pretty challenging I think because it's not really in the foreground of the picture, so let's see how the software can handle that. So you see I'm not really accurate, I just go really broadly this, and magic happened. It's really great, like it really noticed what I wanted to select, and now I can just increase my shadows a little bit, my exposure, maybe reduce the contrast, so we have some details in the shadows a little bit more. Before after still looks quite natural. I like that. So let's challenge this new feature a little bit more, and I want to select this part, like these rocks leading to the hut, so I can brighten them up a little bit, and so that your eye will be led to the hut quite naturally. So let's start again. Here we go. Yeah, it's doing a decent job. It's missing a little bit the last rocks, but let's see if we can add. It's looking good. So a little bit more exposure, contrast, clarity, and some whites. And we came quite a long way. If we want to be really precise, I could subtract by using a brush like this part with the smaller rocks, like the in-between, just like this. Boom. Looks really good. So to give a final touch to this edit, I want to create some glow around the window here with this light, this orange light. To do so, I'll not use any new feature. I will use the good old radial gradient. With a high feather, you can create some really organic glow in post, which is really useful. So just doing like this, increase the temperature, maybe a little bit of the exposure, reduce the contrast, bring back the black so it really gets a bit softer, reduce the DAs a little bit, clarity too, yeah, a little bit more warmth, a little bit more saturation. I increase the size of this a little bit. Let's check the before after. Looks good, maybe a bit too much. So another addition but to the previous version was this amount, which is also really useful. I went a little bit too much, but instead of trying to figure out which of these settings I must bring back, I can just reduce the amount of the overall mask, which is super useful and fast to use. Let's reduce it to 70, and I'm happy with that. If we can activate everything, looks really good. Now is the perfect timing to show you what my presets would have done to this picture instead of doing everything manually and take time to dial every settings one by one. So if I take my favorite one, which is the first one, Shikoku, it looks pretty decent. It's a bit dark, but this is just a question of maybe bringing some exposure and blacks. And there's quite a lot of fade here. If you don't like this, boom, you can reduce the fade, and here we go. Looks really good to me. So I saw that they added a few features in the select subject mask, and I wanted to have a look, so I took this street shot which has a human subject on it to try and challenge those new features. And you see now that when we open the masking tab, so you see that there is this new people section at the bottom, and if we click on it, then we have the option to select only specific parts of this person, get the entire person, or only the face skin and the body skin, for example. Just saw this now actually, that we can create 2 separate masks if you want. But in this case, I just want to create one mask for both the face and body skin. So let's do it right away. And yeah, I want to brighten this up. So this is maybe a little bit too much. Oh, sorry. But if we put maybe 0.2, really looks organic and natural. So, and just so fast and accurate, because I didn't want to bring up her clothes, for example. So really impressive. Let's have a little bit more fun and see if we can actually change the color of her lips. And we going back to select people, person 1, take the lips and change the lipstick from red to something else. That looks terrible. But still, the point is that it looks terrible, yes, but it's so damn accurate, it's perfect. I mean, I would never do that. I don't see myself using this function quite a lot, but I'm pretty sure photographers quite active in portraiture, in studio work, would use it quite a lot, I think. One thing they also had is the select background, which is good, but it was already there in a way before. If you selected the subject just like this and invert, be the same as selecting the background, but still it's one additional button and it's faster and easier to use probably. So overall, I think this update is a pretty huge one. That said, it doesn't mean that this version changes the game completely and that you cannot do anything good with previous version. Like awesome works have been created and have been made with Lightroom 7-8 years ago already. I'm just very pleased to see that these tools like the brush, the mask, become way easier, way faster to use, and just as powerful as what you have in Photoshop. So you can almost do everything in Lightroom now. It's so good. And with that, we'll be able to spend more time on the creative side and more energy at developing new ideas, instead of just being fed up and spending hours trying to dial our brush or selection as accurately as possible. So don't sleep on this update. Go do it ASAP and have fun with editing your pictures. Even though this video was a bit more spontaneous and less prepared than my other works on this YouTube channel, I still hope that you enjoyed it and that you could find anything of value in it. If so, please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss on any further video. And yeah, pretty much sure that the video you'll see here or here are almost as interesting as this one. So go have a look. And with that, I'm already looking forward to meet you in the next one. Bye.